Hey everyone, welcome to this ProveIt podcast session. I'm here with the guys at MaintainX, and I'm going to kick it off for the first question is, so you guys do CMMS. For those the audience who do not know, what is CMMS and what is the problem that it solves for your customers?
Sure. Yeah, so CMMS, if you're not familiar with the acronym, it's a centralized maintenance management system, solution, software. A lot of people use that last S interchangeably, but in short, we help you track the work that needs to be done against your assets. So all of the asset management that needs to be done. So from maintenance, inspections, everything from reactive to preventive maintenance, anything that's coming up, we're helping you keep track of that. With the idea that as you start to build that record of and that history over time, you can start to learn some interesting observations over time. So start to identify trends. Where's your money and your resources? Where are your money and resources being spent? That sort of deal.
Okay. All right. So, well, let me introduce you guys. So we've got David E, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
you're in sales.
I'm on the sales team, specifically enterprise manufacturing.
And then we got Colin, your applications engineering.
Director of Solution Consulting.
Solutions consulting. And we got Nick House in the house.
Yep.
Nick Haas.
Nick Haas. There you go.
Haas in the house. And you're CEO, Top Dog, right?
No, just co-founder.
Co-founder.
But,
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess my next question. Well, let's dive into the CMMS a little bit, and then we'll get into my next question. But walk us through the typical workflow of a maintenance event. What happens from the start of it to the cause to the action to how that's concluded within your platform or for your typical customer.
Sure.
Maybe Colin.
Yeah,
Sure.
go for it.
Yeah, so a few different ways that kind of maintenance issues can be identified. It can be an operator at a machine seeing an issue, reporting it through our request portals. It can be capturing data directly from a PLC or some sort of data broker and issuing out a work order to our maintenance team. In terms of the next steps, a lot of the time it's going either to a maintenance supervisor, maintenance manager to go in and review, actually see if it's a maintenance issue. A lot of the time we hear from our customers, somebody's calling in with an issue and ultimately it's not their responsibility. After that, we get into the executions phase, so actually sending out a tradesperson to go through and execute against the job, whether it be an electrician, millwright, any of those types of people that are actually maintaining this equipment. Within those work orders, we have digital work instructions, so SOPs, SOWs, standardizing in terms of best practices when it comes to actually fixing the equipment, as well as doing things like safety checks, quality checks, all those things that are important to make sure that we have a safe working environment. And then lastly, it's closing out that job. So whether it be capturing any of the spare parts, the time associated with those work orders, and ultimately bringing that machine back online and getting quality or somebody else within the production line to sign off on that job.
Excellent. And within maintenance, I know there's a few KPIs. What KPIs are you making available to within your platform?
Yeah, there's biggest ones that you hear a lot of the time in maintenance are MTTR, so mean time to repair, MTBF, so mean time before failure. We also get into things like availability. We're not calculating OE, we're just looking at the availability in terms of maintenance-related issues. On time versus overdue, work order execution in terms of created versus completed, which are a huge metric for a lot of our customers, so just ensuring that people are actually going through and executing against those jobs. Cost reporting, of course, so actually understanding in terms of how much it's going to cost them. And then lastly is just general understanding of the machine state. So giving visualizations live, real time, in terms of, is this equipment running? Is it down for planned maintenance or unplanned maintenance?
Excellent. Thank you, Colin. So David, my question for you is, being on the sales side, like, walk us through, maybe even give us an example of an ideal customer, like who is an ideal customer, and maybe share an example of like a case study or a specific story where you started working with a customer who had a problem and then what the end state was after working with them.
Great question. So there's actually like typical customers are coming from either three scenarios. They either have no system in place and they're using pen, paper, and Excel spreadsheets. They're ideal because they're coming from nothing. The second time is they're coming from another CMMS system. Maybe they've outgrown it, or it's not mobile, or it doesn't have the functionality that MaintainX brings to the table. Or they're working with a large ERP. So those are the three sort of buckets that we're working with. And the ideal customer that I'm looking for is a plant or a company that thinks maintenance is important. They value the importance of maintenance. Obviously, production is king, and it's always going to be king. But I'm looking for a company that's looking to do to overall improve their mean time to repair, their machine availability. Maybe they have a UNS in place, maybe they don't, but they want to take those first steps to really improve the whole maintenance program as a whole. I wouldn't second count or discount working with a highly motivated company that really wants to make those improvements. That's the first thing I'm looking for.
Yeah. You were saying last night how you don't want to convince them that they have a problem.
That's it. Similar to what Walker is talking about when it comes to digital transformation. They have to admit they have a problem. And if they don't, for us, at least on the sales side, if they don't admit that maintenance is important, that's going to be a tough customer to work with, or it might take a little bit longer. So an ideal customer is somebody that's admitting that maintenance is important, and they want to walk through the journey with Colin and I, and invite us to the plant, and run a small proof of concept, and really take the jump.
Excellent.
I could speak to some of the case study components too, just so folks understand, what you get out of it. One of the case studies that's fun to share is like there's a lot of different places you get value from CMMS, and I think that's something that the comprehensive value of a system that's actually kind of operating, even in this early crawl stage of a deployment, you get immense value. So one example is like Duracell, a customer of ours. They're saving over $50,000 a year per site on on parts inventory alone, and that's simply because we're helping them avoid those bottlenecks where they were paying rush shipping fees for parts that were their critical stockouts on equipment.
How do you do that?
Just because it made it easier for their technicians to record when they were using parts, because they had an ERP system but the technicians were oftentimes forgetting to go and actually document and mark that usage there. And so by giving them an easy to use mobile platform with MaintainX, they were able to easily record the work that was being done, and then that helped them start to get ahead of stockouts. So that's one way that we're helping folks. We've got customers like Alstrom that are saving, I think, 90% improvements in mean time to repair after a year, just because getting that information.
So like something from days to hours, or
yeah, and you think about like some of these companies, not this company specifically, but they may have a production line that's spitting out, that's printing money for them, right? It's printing $1 million an hour. So if that machine goes from, we don't necessarily take that downtime to zero on day one,
right?
But if we can get you from saying, hey, that's a 2-hour downtime event, just because the technician had to go troubleshoot it, go back to the parts room, find the manual, look through the binder, do all that. If we can take that down to a 30-minute event because he has the information he needs right at his device on his mobile tablet or his phone, show up to that, to that incident or that issue fully prepared and able to then execute the work and get that done in 30 minutes, that's $1.5 million saving right there out of the gate. And so that mean time to repair is an area that a lot of companies don't always think about, even if you're tracking your downtime, right? I know so many organizations that are breaking it up into different components. Like it's 15 minutes because of this, and then 15 minutes for that, and then they don't have a real holistic idea of how long things are taking. So, like our average customers, we did a survey of all of our customers about a year ago, and they're saving over 30. Like they're immediately seeing a 30% reduction in downtime with MaintainX. So, those are some of the things that from parts cost savings to mean time to repair that immediately kind of get the attention of the management teams and leadership that are motivated to continue to drive towards reliability as a priority, because as you get those immediate cost savings, you start to see long-term cost savings as it relates to asset lifecycle. If you can make your equipment last longer, you're not having to repurchase as frequently as before. So those are some of the things that as we kind of move into this digital transformation era and get to this sort of next wave of adoption and this next generation of folks that are really trying to wrap their heads around it, it has a lot of optimization opportunity that's low-hanging fruit. You don't have to go, fully integrated to the most advanced bells and whistles of sensor technology to start to see really, real tangible value with our system, which is pretty great.
Yeah, that's something I think maybe people don't think about too often.
Yeah, it's not
is-
sexy.
Well, like you have your downtime events, and the obvious thing is like let's have these downtime events happen less often, which is what we do traditional OEE for. But like, what about when the downtime event happens? How can you get it back online faster?
Right.
And that, I think, is that 30% you were talking about. It's like, yes, you can do let's do preventative maintenance to get these downtime events to happen less often. But what about when the downtime event does happen? How can you make those events shorter?
Right.
So, just taking a step back for you, Nick, how did you even start this company? You know, like what made you start MaintainX, and why did you start it?
Yeah. My co-founders and I, we got together in 2018, and we had a few critical observations that we'd noticed through some of our previous experience. And in short, it was really alarming to see how much of the manufacturing and industrial world around us was still operating on pen and paper. And knowing that, in a world that's agnostic and independent from AI, we'll put that aside for a moment, just being able to have data-driven operations was impossible for these folks. They didn't know where they were losing money. They didn't know how to they all felt, a lot of these organizations and folks that we work with, we started to interview and learn more about it. They knew there were opportunities to improve. They just didn't know how to get there. They knew it in their gut, but they couldn't measure it. And so even a lot of our customers we work with, they don't have necessarily a baseline. They don't know what their baseline MTTR is or some of these things because they aren't tracking it to begin with. And so we were like, why are people still doing this on pen and paper? Is it just, and what we learned was, there were over 300 CMMSs on the market. So why did the world need 301? The vast majority of them were really not optimized at all for mobile. Mm-hmm. And most of the technicians in the world don't sit behind a desk while they're working on equipment. So they don't need desktop software to do this work. They needed a tool that was available in their hands and easy to use, something they didn't have to take 40 hours of training videos to figure out how to use, or that had long loading screens of death or very complicated infrastructures or user interfaces. And so our idea was, let's build something that's for the person who has no purchasing power, no budget making authority, but we believed was sort of that bottleneck in helping these operational teams sort of unlock the value of digital transformation investments that they've been making sort of above that layer of the stack. And so that was sort of the premise, is like, let's try to build for that end user. And that's still sort of the core focus today, 6 years later. And I think a testament to the growth that we're seeing is that one of the things we're really proud of is our user adoption rate is that when companies deploy this, their end users actually use it. And that means they get value from it. It doesn't become shelfware. And as long as we continue to put the customer, in our mind, that just as important as the executive decision maker that's making that decision is that end user technician. As long as we continue to put them first in our design process and our in sort of the value propositions of what we build for them, we think we're going to continue to see hopefully more success with that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I would use to describe you guys is, maybe there was a lot of CMMS players, but they had that kind of legacy software feel.
Yeah.
MaintainX, what makes you guys unique is you've taken a little bit of that Silicon Valley kind of essence, and you've kind of bridged it with industrial and created something that, you can download for free without ever having to talk to anybody. You can get started. You're really a SaaS for CMMS, and that's kind of unique. It's something I haven't seen, and I think that's why your user growth is so amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to build mobile, really good user-friendly software on mobile. There's a reason the Facebook engineers and all these popular apps that are consumer-facing, those guys get paid a lot of money. It's because it's a really, really hard skill set. And so something we're really fortunate to have is two of my co-founders are world-class mobile software engineers, and we've been able to build an incredible team behind them that are able to help us sort of continue to develop and build.
Yeah, you guys have that giant iPhone at your booth.
Yeah.
Speaking of your booth,
that's it. Yeah.
You guys have. You were telling me we went out to dinner last night and we were talking business, and you guys are doing 40 events this year.
Yeah.
How do you approach an event, and how do you approach an event like this, and what can you do to get the most out of it? Like, if you're a business development, and how are you looking to approach this event, David?
Lots of preparation. First, you want to know who's coming to the conference, not only from the end user perspective, but who are the other vendors? What's the goal? What's the theme of the conference? And what we're seeing, at least from my perspective, from the conferences I've been to, is that companies are going a lot more digital, and they want to see integrations up front. They want to see what that looks like. So, in terms of how to prepare for a conference, you got to know the audience, who's coming there, and then as a team, you're really only as good as your team. And Nick and Claudine do a fantastic job preparing the salespeople, preparing the people attending the conference. Really doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you got a team setting it up for you, and I'm like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. You had the padded carpet on your booth, and yeah, so you guys definitely have done this once or twice before. So, Nick, you mentioned AI, right? And I want to talk about AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI in 2025. You guys aren't a specifically AI platform, but you guys are obviously using AI within your platform. So, Colin, how are you using AI within MaintainX?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest differentiators with our application is we're leveraging our customers' data. So being able to take the information that we already have, the classification of faults, the understanding in terms of how do we actually maintain this equipment, as well as leveraging OEM tools to be able to surface that data to a technician incredibly quick and in a understandable format. The average OEM manual is a few hundred pages. It's got a lot of great troubleshooting instructions, a lot of great spec information, but nobody wants to go through and search that. And so we're bringing it to the forefront. I think another big component of it and why we're here is, focusing on the UNS. Standardized data formatting, standardized naming conventions is ultimately what builds strong AI models. And so we have wanted to focus on OT technologies with a standard communication protocol, so MQTT, Sparkplug-B, and ultimately that's giving us a strong basis to be able to leverage both machine data as well as CMMS data to build a super effective platform.
Unstoppable.
Yeah, I want to get to that unstoppable in a second, but I want to. So you're using it to predict, or so you're training the models with your customers' data to help them do.
Sure. There's a few different basic tools that are actually not leveraging customer data. So bringing AI tools to the end user. So things like smart estimates. You can save a whole bunch of different time by actually understanding how long it takes you to complete a job. So we're actually saying, hey, this job took you on an average 2 hours. You have it in as an estimated time for 3 hours. There's an hour of wrench time that we've unlocked. The first one that we had in market was AI procedure generation. So you can actually talk to our custom-made model saying, I need a work instruction for a HVAC or a press. And ultimately, it's going to create you a list of digital work instructions based upon our internal resources to help you execute against those jobs.
So you do digital work instructions as well within the platform?
Yep.
For the based on an operations manual?
Based upon an operations manual, a lot of our customers don't even have those manuals. And so we're actually leveraging our own models to create best practices. We, of course, always want our customers to go back, review, and approve it, but we're also just surfacing it based upon the information that we have. The other big one, of course, for this conversation is getting into things like anomaly detection. So very simple. You're taking a look at the historical readings and flagging any time somebody's entered in information incorrectly, or saying, did you put the wrong data point? Did you put a 0 at the end when you didn't mean to? So really focused on end user experience versus necessarily predictive models. That's definitely a huge focus for us moving forward. Part of the reason that we need to have the UNS is to make sure that we can create effective models, since some of these customers have 300-400 models for just a few number of their assets.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I want to brag about too with my team, we just released, it's pretty incredible, and it is our AI Copilot tool, and the idea here is there's a lot of really exciting things happening in AI today, right? And manufacturers are kind of still figuring out how to wrap their head around where do we drop the pebble and how do we put this into our systems. But at the same time, you also have a lot more risk when you're thinking about AI and what the output is in an operation where there's a lot of heavy machinery and people can get hurt or expensive machinery can break, relative to if you're just having it generate funny cat videos or pictures, right?
Yeah. So how do you trust what it's giving you?
Yeah. So one of the hardest problems to solve, even the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about this last week, and there's a lot of other folks, is how do you prevent AI from hallucinating, making it up? And we're really excited about our AI Copilot tool, which will not hallucinate. You can basically ask it how to do anything on a piece of equipment. You can talk to it. If I'm an untrained technician or I'm an unskilled worker, I can ask it, like, how do I change this belt, or why would you be rattling? And it's able to sort of, you can talk to it in a format like a ChatGPT sort of bot, and it'll give you the actual work instructions and explain to you what's going on with citations directly from like the OEM manuals. And if it doesn't know, it'll just say, I don't know. Contact your manager. And that part right there is actually really, really hard to do. I'm not the AI developer. I'm not, so I don't want to get your hopes up on getting too far into the weeds. But my understanding is that component of it there is actually really, really difficult to do. And so the fact that our team was able to sort of put that out, and we've been testing it with a lot of our clients already, and the early results are really, really exciting. They're pretty blown away. And so the AI doesn't have to be we don't need to come in and have the flashiest solution out of the gate. I don't think that's not the right solution that manufacturers should be looking for. It's what's something that's trustworthy, that delivers real value and solves real problems. And so we can build cutting edge, and we're going to be close to that, but we're always going to make sure that we have safety guardrails in place to make sure that it's something that our clients can trust.
Excellent. All right. What does unstoppable mean to you? Well,
for me, it's obviously a fun play on UNS, right? But it's the idea of it is that when you actually sort of connect the dots here, and we're getting to talk to this great audience of IIoT nerds, folks that love digging into the details and the latest technology here. If we can bring that horsepower, and we can connect it to the reliability and work execution side of a business, we think that's really the companies that really figure out how to do that.
You're not stopping at UNS. You're going beyond that.
Yeah, you're going to be able to thrive in this next wave of the world to come over the next few years. And the companies that can't figure out how to do that over the next 5 years, they're not going to be around in 10. There's a lot of incumbents that I think people are going to be really surprised that are going to be disrupted across every one of these sectors, because the economies of scale and the efficiencies that these tools bring are really, this is not like a VR trend. This is not another wave of this is so transformative that you got to get on board if you actually want your company to be around and thriving in the next 5 to 10 years. So we're really hoping to evangelize the value of what that looks like, and if a fun catchphrase can kind of jumpstart that for some folks, we're all about it. That's what we're going to help them be unstoppable.
And Colin, I think it ties into unstoppable. Like, what is the UNS for you? Like, what is the future of unified namespace, and how does it play into your job role?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges for a lot of our customers is just having a standard data format. Site to site, device to device, it's different. And for you to be an effective manufacturer, to have consistency in terms of understanding, you need to have a centralized data platform that has a standard naming convention, has standard data coming into it. And ultimately, one of the biggest challenges for our implementation, let alone the entire industry, is having that standardized data. And so we have focused a lot on making sure that our customers are getting actionable insights, they're getting a standard information out of the application that they're putting in. So whether it be the asset naming convention, parts and inventory, any of the meters or measures, or things as easy as SOWs and SOPs, we got to have standard data across all those different actionable endpoints, and that flows all back into the UNS as well.
David, we were talking about UNS, and what percentage of your customers that you talk to, or potential customers that you talk to, have a UNS in place already, and what would you have to say about the future of customers who don't have a unified namespace?
Well, to answer that last question first, I want to help. We want to change that. The customers that don't have one in place, the first step of digital transformation is education. And we want to evangelize and educate not only the power of starting with a UNS, solving a small problem in the maintenance space with MaintainX, connecting machine state and really reacting to failures faster. I think every single industry has the opportunity, regardless of their digital maturity, to really tackle that problem. And the amount of customers right now that have a UNS, I'd say you're probably looking around 1 in 10.
Okay.
And we're seeing it explode in Europe. Europe is catching up, and more people are talking about it now. Before it was like really secret. If you had a UNS, it was your competitive advantage, you know.
Okay.
And now it's becoming more sort of like we're hitting critical mass, like the Overton window. Like it's becoming more mainstream, especially with the ProveIt conference. 683 people that are going to be seeing, all sorts of presentations about the UNS. So it's going to be coming up a lot more, and I think just this year alone, we'll work with at least 2 to 10x more customers that have UNS.
Oh yeah, 10x. Gentlemen, any last comments, questions, or call to actions? David?
If you have questions about maintenance and how it applies to the UNS, come watch the presentation on Wednesday.
Excellent.
And then if you want to go deeper, come to the booth. We're at
Okay.
booth 4, right by the escalator.
Yeah, I'm going to publish this out I'm going to get this out tonight, so definitely come and take a look at their booth. Especially if you've been walking around all day, like the padded carpeting will be a relief to your feet, so you definitely got to come check out the MaintainX booth. Colin, any last comments, questions, or call to actions?
Maintenance is the forgotten hero of your operating space. So never discount maintenance. It's one of the key metrics in terms of availability, and so start thinking about not only your MES, not only your UNS, but how are you actually going to go through and have an actual endpoint for any of these use cases.
Yeah, the unsung hero, the unsexy part of, it's the stuff that if you aren't thinking about maintenance, then you're probably doing that job right,
I would say a lot of our customers aren't thinking about maintenance and they're not doing it very right. But
if you're doing maintenance and not having to think about it, you don't want to have to. I mean, if it's difficult, you're probably just not going to do it. But if the platform you're using makes it easy, then you're going to unlock all those gains.
Hey, ultimately, if you have good maintenance practices, you have a competitive advantage out of the majority of manufacturers that we talk to. So encouraging you to have that unified namespace and have everything talk to each other and start thinking not maintenance as a cost center, but somewhere to invest.
Excellent. Nick?
Something I talk to a lot of operational leaders about, I think kind of gets lost in the thick of some of the data talk and all the innovation is how much we're losing every day from folks that are retiring and leaving the workforce. How much tribal knowledge is leaving, and MaintainX is a great tool to help start capturing that knowledge before they leave the workforce. And we've got a small time window before. And anybody who works in these operations, you just look around the site, look around your plant, look at how old the folks are that are doing the work. You need to start finding a way to digitize that knowledge and capture it, so that you can keep, we're going to be able to do some really great things with, AI to help enable the next generation to leverage that knowledge. But if it's not captured, we can't do much with it. So, for folks who can't make it out to ProveIt and watching this, maybe there's some FOMO going on, and you're going to miss our presentation live. Reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you. We'd love to figure out a way to sort of, the thing it can be really intimidating. Where do you start? How do you kind of get going on that digital transformation journey? We help folks go live from 0 to 100, all the way, everyone using the MaintainX across their operations, 90% of them in less than 3 weeks. It's a really quick win. And it's something that you can do today to start to build that foundational layer that's going to enable change management upstream. So maybe there are some other cool tools, whether it's ActoBox or Canary or some of these other ones that you're interested in deploying. We're the change management layer that will enable you to layer those on top, so that your technicians and your frontline folks can just receive those insights and action on them. They don't need to learn all of these other systems. So we don't think the future of manufacturing is 25 apps on a technician's phone. It's one single pane of glass that connects to everything else. So,
And how can I get started? Like, I want to. Do I have a free plan? Free?
Go to MaintainX.com, download
Right.
the app for free on the App Store, start playing with it. We're happy to meet you where you're at. If you don't want to talk to a salesperson, that's fine. Play with it, and you can get on a free trial and go to town with all of the bells and whistles. But if you do need some help or you have some questions, we got a great team that's happy to help with that. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching. Definitely, and thank you guys for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
If this
thanks,
was
Zach.
valuable, make sure to subscribe, like, comment down below. We'll have the contact information for these guys, MaintainX down below. If you're not using computerized maintenance management system, you definitely got to start using it today. And they're here.
We're here to prove it.
They're here to prove it. And yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
exactly.